Hi, everyone here and around the world. And great news, we've broken through 196,000 subscribers since last week. And thank you all so much for your wonderful support. And tonight, it's your turn to ask me questions throughout the entire hour. And Brad has the 3-minute timer bell. There we go. But first, there were 3 important science reports this morning that I want to share with you here at the beginning of tonight's broadcast. New Scientist headline today, quote, "A strange object in space is blasting out radio waves every 18 minutes." Natasha Hurley-Walker, Ph.D., an award-winning radio astronomer at Curtin University in Perth, Australia, uses radio telescopes to search the far reaches of our universe, and now she has found this baffling object 4,000 light years from Earth that is illustrated by the white star in the far right of this image by the Murchison Radio Telescope in Australia. Dr. Hurley-Walker told reporters at a recent press conference, quote, "The brightness here is really crazy, really extreme. We did not expect to find anything so bright. No one really thought of looking for objects on this time scale because we could not think of any mechanisms that produced them, and yet they exist," close quote. In addition to the extreme brightness, the unknown object got brighter and dimmer on a cycle of 30 to 60 seconds, once every 18.18 minutes. No Earth scientist to date has ever seen a brightening rhythm like this before. Astronomer Hurley-Walker said in the press conference that the regular pulsing rhythm implies that this object is, quote, "probably spinning," and other measurements of its light hint that it must have a very powerful magnetic field, close quote. Some scientists have proposed it might be a magnetar, a kind of neutron star, but no magnetar before has rotated so slowly and shone so brightly if it were. Dr. Hurley-Walker told reporters, quote, "I was concerned that it was aliens, but it is across a very wide range of frequencies, and that means it must be a natural process. This is not an artificial signal," close quote. And she now wants to find more objects exactly like this one if they are out there. And back here in the United States at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, professor of physics and astronomy, Farhad Zadeh, has released this astounding mosaic image of mysterious magnetic filaments that he first discovered 35 years ago in radio frequencies. And now he has documented 1,000 strange magnetic filaments that are the large vertical slashes throughout this black and white radio frequency image. Eventually, he discovered the magnetic strands are made of cosmic ray electrons that are moving their magnetic fields at near the speed of light. He and his fellow scientists have been trying to understand, quote, "How do the magnetic filaments accelerate cosmic ray electrons close to the speed of light," close quote. And back near Earth, the great news is that the James Webb Space Telescope is now at Lagrange Point 2, 1,000,000 miles from Earth, and this is its new home. There, the most powerful telescope ever made by humans will now spend the next 3 months with Earth engineers down here, communicating with it out there, and they will do the meticulous aligning of the telescope's optics to nearly nanometer precision. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson told reporters this past Monday, January 24th, quote, "Well, we're one step closer to uncovering the mysteries of the universe, and I can't wait to see Webb's first new views of the universe this summer. If all goes well, they have 3 months. let's say it's February, March, April. So maybe by May, we might finally see some of the Webb telescope images begin. And now, Ian, let's do Q&A. And Brad's got that bell ready to ring every 3 minutes, and I will try my best to complete a thought. And if I don't, you can laugh and ask me another question.
Okay, Linda. Just to tell you, first of all, we've had quite a lot of people in the chat. The chat's very busy this evening. And Hannah's in there as well. She says, hi, Mom, too.
Oh, I love her. She is my beautiful, beautiful, talented 7-year-old granddaughter. I love her so, so much. Hannah, I'm so glad that you're here.
Linda, the zinc, magnesium, bismuth metamaterials that came from art apparently were accompanied by some letters that explained that there would be full contact coming in 2025. Can you comment about that, please?
Nothing came from art. I was doing Coast to Coast AM in 1996 on a regular, frequent basis. And one day, Art called me at home and said, I've received a box. I'm not sure what's in it, but I would like you to investigate. And so this came in 2 or 3 installments. The first box, I examined, asked somebody locally. They said they thought it was aluminum. I sent a piece to Alcoa. And they reported back that it was something like 99.47% pure aluminum. And they asked me, where did you get this? Because we do not produce aluminum in this kind of purity. That was round 1. Within 2 or 3 weeks later came another box. And in there was a different silver and black alternating colors of half a dozen pieces. And Art asked me to start investigating that. And that led to Art and I split an $850 bill for the Carnegie Institute ion microprobe. Eric Howe was his name. And he passed a year or so ago, sadly. I went to Washington, D.C., took a piece, and Eric Howe then put it in this magnetometer, ion magnetometer, and that what we were testing several things, and ion microprobe that would be one of the few instruments that could give us the isotopic ratio on magnesium that might be in this. And the curious thing, Art said, in a few other cases, there have been reports that the magnesium was not like Earth's base in terms of the magnesium 24, 25, 26 ratios. So let's see. And Carnegie, at the time, that would have been around April, May of 96 that we got it, and I arranged to go to Carnegie, I think it was in June or July. And the challenge was to see, one, would the magnesium in this layered metal be different? Could it be in an extraterrestrial ratio? And by then, I had already worked with a professor at the University of Michigan in which we had been able to get some electron microscopic views. We knew it was layered very rigidly, and that the bismuth that we identified was only 1 to 4 microns, and the magnesium zinc was 97.6% was made up of the magnesium, which was not outside of Earth. But it was that all of that work identifying what that silver and black material was that finally led to the middle of 1996. And it was very clear that I had metal that no one knew how it was made or what it did.
I've been hearing a lot of talk lately about alien DNA. I'm just reading the question.
Yeah.
And hybrids walking among us, from retired CIA John Ramirez. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that the question about whether or not we have extraterrestrial biological entities with either a hybrid mix with Homo sapiens sapien or perhaps even with other humanoids is distinctly a possibility on the Earth. I could go as far to say that I have interviewed privately or talked with people privately who have worked in aerospace or military, who they say in a declarative sentence, yes, there are a lot of hybrids on Earth. Genetically and medically, to prove it, you would have to, I suppose, see if a lot of people who think they're hybrids would volunteer for DNA analysis, and then you'd have the issue of who was a credible scientist who would be willing to do all of that testing, and what would it cost, and would anybody do it for free, and on and on and on the questions go. I think that the bigger issue is beyond are there hybrids on Earth, is the true relationship between Earth and other intelligences, whether they are friendly, neutral, or hostile. What is their view of the value of Earth to them? And from everything that I have been exposed to since 1979, starting on A Strange Harvest about animal mutilations, to tonight, it has been an increasing pulse of information over the last 43 years that we are dealing with intelligences that need genetic material, and that the genetic material that is needed and harvested from this planet is used to make perhaps a variety of other entities, and that genetic material in the hands of advanced minds might end up being able to make the containers that are shown in those tubes of light in my third book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 2, High Strangeness, the 106-page chapter that has illustrations by the half-dozen abductees who have been on a craft with beings, often the tall Nordics or tall whites. And they are shown banks of tubes that have both human bodies and a variety of ET bodies. And that may be that that is the bigger picture, and that hybridization on Earth might just be one facet. Okay?
Okay, Linda, here's the question. Do you think humanity will start having dreams of extraterrestrial disclosure before it's announced? And that one actually comes from someone who says they've been having these dreams about the future, and it feels a lot like a lucid dream, but more than that.
I think it's been happening for at least 2 years. I think that I started getting really lots of strong letters with vivid details by the end of 2019, as we went into 2020, not realizing that we were also going into the horror of a serious pandemic that is essentially revolutionizing the world, whether we want it or not. And in those letters, the ones that I'm thinking of that I have a file that I have kept, there is a completely different sense, both of urgency and detail, when people seem to have what I think of as precognitive dreams. And it was at that time, I believe it was somewhere in that fall, winter of 2020, that I too, who in my life, when I have a dream, because I don't dream often, but when I do and when I wake up in a dream, it is almost always about something that is coming in the future. I just think of the vivid dreams that I've had in that context. And I remember I told Brad, I said, my God, it was dark, and I woke up and I sat up and I opened my eyes and I could see buildings burning with fire. And I heard myself say to the air, oh my God, violent civil war. And I had to get up and walk around because it was so vivid and felt so real. And look at what unfolded over the time in the last 2 years. And that to me is the characterization for the people who may be asking the question or are out there now. If you wake up, you even sit up and you are opening your eyes and you are still not, you're not in your room, you're still inside of the vivid dream. Those are the kinds of sleep-wake events that I think sometimes can be anticipating something in the future. But I also feel so strongly about something else that we all, I hope, will share together. If you see something, as I did, 6 to 10 story high buildings burning and thinking of civil war, the next day and ever since then, I keep trying to counter it with divine field, thought that dwells in the light. Please help us. Take away violence, take away destruction. Bring us together as a human family so that we will not destroy each other. I pray for that every single day to the light, to the thought that dwells in the light. And everybody has their own relationship with something outside of themselves. And I have never in my life felt more strongly that if humans would concentrate on positive frequencies, it might have an impact on a timeline that could be going to a destruction that none of us would want to bear and never want to see. So that is in an exchange, not knowing the details of the letter or letters that you're referencing, Ian, but I really, really believe if we all concentrated on putting blocks of light against those kinds of images, we might make a difference.
Okay, Linda, I don't normally say I normally say there aren't any small questions or short questions. There are a couple here. When are you coming to the UK next? And specifically, when are you coming to Devizes, Wiltshire, Linda?
Oh, I miss it so. I just miss it so. We haven't traveled, or meaning we, all of us, very few people that I know have been doing any kind of vacation or investigative or any other kind of travel because of the horrible COVID. And depending upon what happens, I guess, this summer, if we would just know whether there's going to be another variant, I don't want to get on an airline and travel someplace worrying the whole time that if you touch something wrong or that you would end up with something that could kill you. Nobody wants to do that. It makes travel, it makes everything really uncomfortable. So I would like us to feel like we had some kind of real serious, I don't know if management is the right word, but some kind of feeling of confidence that we were getting past the impact of COVID, and that those of us who are fully vaccinated, as I am, that we would, maybe we are out of the woods in terms of vulnerability. And the problem is, and I've been listening to some of the best medical people and reading what they're writing, nobody knows. We literally do not know what is coming next. Pray that it is nothing more. But look what we have been through from the beginning of 19 and Delta and Omicron. And Omicron is not some light thing. I just read a whole long discussion in the New York Times about the evidence that's coming in that people could be vaccinated, get the Omicron, and then maybe a few months later, then they really get sick with the long haul. And doctors and medical people don't have the answers to this yet. They know that there can be this disconnect between the initial illness, even with a vaccine, and it breaks through, Omicron breaks through, and they think that everything is fine, and then wham, they end up in the hospital a few months later with the terrible long haul syndrome. And that's why traveling, I think, at least the way I feel, I'm only doing, I think, what I feel I've contracted to do or it is necessary. And another thing for us all to concentrate on, oh, Lord, please, please take COVID away and let us at least feel comfortable in traveling again. That would be wonderful. Okay, I got one.
Well, you ended that one as well. Linda, have you found through investigations anything about any breakthrough alien technology that has been used for medical use?
The most interesting, exciting potential that I keep hearing about, both from people who are in engineering, medicine, and abductees, is that the ETs live these tremendously long lives. I've been told that the tall Nordics and the tall whites live 500 to 800 years. Others may live longer. And here we are, Cro-Magnon Homo sapien sapien, on this fantastic planet Earth. And we have what I think of as Drosophila fly lives. If the average is supposed to be somewhere between 70 and 75 is the average turnaround, gosh, I mean, you're just really starting to understand things when you get to your 7th decade. And then to realize that you are afraid about days going by when you get to that decade, when if we could take a pill or a shot or be put in some kind of light, and if we would be guaranteed, let's say for 150 years, no disease, you can be productive as you can be, do the work that you want to work. Oh my Lord, would I love to take a pill like that and go as strongly as I have been for 43 years, trying to get to the bottom of everything related to animal mutilations, human abductions, other civilizations. I just feel like I'm right now getting to the richest, most profound material of my whole life, of which much of it I cannot share with you yet because I have to protect people. I try to do some vetting. There's all kinds of things going on, but I'm not kidding. I'm in the richest, deepest, most profound of all the content. And what's on the other side? What's the bottom line? The Milky Way galaxy is teeming with consciousness. It comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes, and it really does match that bell-shaped curve that Lynn Buchanan told me about in that interview about he and other controlled remote viewers when they did remote viewing about whether there was other intelligence in the universe, and it came back, it was teeming with consciousness, and that it was friendly, neutral, and hostile or unfriendly. And that certainly seems to be the three main categories. And then what is behind any intelligence that would be unfriendly and hostile to these new babies on Earth, humanity, that don't even live, for the most part, to 100 years, while they have lives that go on and on and on and on and on. So, in a strange way, our finally beginning to baby step in 2022 up to the big headlines, "We're not alone in the universe." It's just such a tiny scratch on what the truth is, how much this universe is filled with all kinds of consciousness, and that we humans, we are something extraordinary. We just don't understand it, and we have been lied to for so long that I do think of it as abuse, and know so many people now in power and authority who would also like to see the truth come out. That let's hold up another image in our head, that we see that headline before next New Year's. Let's see the headline in 2022, "We're not alone in the universe." And maybe the Webb telescope will be used to show us something where they can at least get that long, long, long suppressed truth out. Okay, yeah.
Linda, take a breather for a moment. Let me go through the super chats. And thank you everyone in the audience for your generosity. So here we go. Moonbird.
Hi.
James Thiessen, Jerry Welsh, Courtney C, Linda Emeterio, Kilikaza, Louis Cangela, Carl Balsamire, Dr. Dolores Mize, Deborah McGavin, Eponis Tribe, Lily Boop from the UK, Angela McGreen, Chicho98. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. All of it feels wonderful that there is such a sense of support around what is difficult material for other people. So I'm really glad that we're here together doing this weekly. Thank you, Ian.
And Linda, could you just tell people to hit the likes and also to subscribe? Thank you.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't subscribed, there's a red arrow. Just click on it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps in this world of social media to have your numbers keep going up like ours are, the 196,000. And everybody needs to think about what you would like to do that we can do in this connection through electrons when we hit 200,000. And the likes, I know that's a big important part of the fabric of the social digital world. So click on the subscribe button, and if you like what we're doing, click on it.
Thank you, Linda. You just boosted our likes, so thank you, and thank you for the audience hitting the like button. Okay, Linda, one of the viewers is commenting on the books behind you on your bookcase and says that some of your books are hard to get currently. They're currently out of print. Could you tell us when they will be available and if people should pre-order or wait for them to be made?
Yeah, on my books, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1 is being reprinted, and An Alien Harvest is being reprinted. And last week I did talk about that a little bit, that the reason why I got caught in between the books selling out and getting them published is COVID. The publisher that I have used for the last 10, 12 years, very good, and they had so many people get sick, and they were down for a period of time while I was running out of the books, and there was nothing that I could do. And that's why we have ended up, but right now, as far as I know, everything is on track. They have reinforced that the first week of March, I will have the delivery of Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1, High Strangeness. This here, I'll show you. This is volume 1. That is the March reprint, and it will be ready to ship in the first week of March 2022, in about 8 weeks or 9 weeks. Here is its companion volume, Glimpses Volume 2, that the two together are about 800 pages. And I did these two books for over 10 years. It took a decade. And this is the one that sold out, and I was able to get it reprinted. And I've been fulfilling Glimpses Volume 2. Anybody can order Glimpses Volume 2. And then An Alien Harvest, which I don't have up here, but that was my first book on animal mutilations. It will be available in the first week of April. They're 1 month apart. Glimpses Volume 1, March. An Alien Harvest, the first week of April. And I should have the books then, all 4 books, including Mysterious Lights and Crop Circles, which is this one. And this is a book that has a tremendous amount in it, actually. I went to England and decided that I would take all of my new experiences and investigations, put them in a book, real time, and ended up doing a lot of also other investigations related to what happened to me in England and in the crop formations. And this book has a lot in it. It is crop formations, but it goes deep and wide in many directions. And all 4 are available all of the time until I'm getting crossed in a squeeze play between COVID and dear people being sick and the publisher or the printer not being able to get them. So I would say I'm hoping that from the spring of 2022 going forward, that we won't run out of books that we can't turn around more quickly. But we're in a kind of an unknown time on Earth, and I can just tell you one way or the other. If you want to order books now, I've got a folder on pre-orders, and if you want to wait until I make the announcement, they're here, they're there, I'm holding one, do that too.
Okay, Linda, are there any theories or speculations that give you the giggles? Any ideas that make you laugh? Not at others' expense, of course, but what strikes you as silly? This is from Bloomberg, and he just wonders if there was anything that you found humorous in your investigations.
Oh, I can think of many times when I've laughed out loud. The problem is remembering exactly what, but it probably, I would say, because it seems impossible to me now that any intelligent human being could hold the notion that we are alone in this universe and that we humans would be the only intelligent life. That is now so impossible to comprehend that anybody could have that point of view because of all that I have been and am now exposed to, that I know is the truth, because I know the sources and I know a lot about what is actually happening beyond the surfaces. And all we get on the news today are surfaces. There is so much going on in so many levels, in so many directions, that no one reporting news seems to have a clue. And in a strange way, it becomes almost comical when you know the truth and you know how completely disconnected the world is to real truths that are providing big landscapes as the future unfolds, eventually when it is finally all clear what was happening on the timeline and where it was building to and what the evolution into space really was for the Space Force in the United States to be going out to another solar system as early as 1972, and that today I can say with some confidence that we have Space Force working in collaboration with tall Nordics and tall whites in at least 24 different solar systems. And I heard that a whole year ago from a completely different source that I have now, and there have been so many things that have been verified that I understand the context is deep and wide about what is actually going on. And I assume that eventually, whether it's this century, another century, or 5 centuries, if humans survive, one of the big questions to me would always be, how could a planet that grew up to 8 billion species, individuals, never be told the truth about the real relationship of its form, Homo sapiens sapien, to untold numbers of other forms in this huge universe? How could it have been so bottled up? It's amazing to me. We're living in 2 or 3 different realities on Earth. Okay?
W asks, Linda, how would one go about getting into your line of work? This work needs to continue.
Well, thank you. I did my graduate work at Stanford University, got a master's degree in communication. Each of us, I was the only girl in a class with guys, 27 guys and me. And I learned you cannot whine with a group of guys. You better be able to lift whatever they lift to do work. And it was very strengthening, and it was a wonderful way to begin, is what I'm saying. All these guys, me, each one of us had to raise our own money to do our own films. We could select whether we wanted to be camera or audio and get one of our classmates to be whichever one we weren't. Often, most of the time, I was doing camera. And all of the work that I did at Stanford University, working on my master's degree, was for the Stanford Medical Center. It was a film that I did a kind of creative approach to how you would study preemies who must go into the plastic protectors, and then the parents could only put their hands inside of the gloves and could only never touch the baby's skin, only could touch through the rubber gloves because the baby was immature or premature and maybe ill. And they wanted to know if there was a way I could devise to study this and have a long-term film that they could use at Stanford and hospitals. And I experimented in a camera with doing a split screen so that I was shooting with 2 cameras, and I had one on the baby and one on the mother, always at the same time. And then I worked with the lab and edge numbers that we did so that every one of the frames that were truly representative of the baby and the mother at the same time. So the film then could be studied from beginning to end of the mother and the baby going through a variety of experiences around the incubator over time. And they used that film that I did for 19 years and sent me a nice letter. I also did my master's in the Stanford Linear Accelerator, where they were starting for the very first time in the 67 to 1968 time period in getting computers to do analysis of particle bombardments that were very labor intensive for the scientists. And it was thrilling. I still can remember the first time I had asked a scientist if they could help me see if I could set up a camera, again experimenting with something that I was working with one of the guys in the department, where I wanted to see if I could capture on film any kind of particle bombardment. And one day, working with one of the physicists, we were able to get that I used then, this particular procedure that we did. It was transitory, but at least we got it. And that film also was used. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I am. Now, that is what I've always been. I love science. I love facts. I love truth. I was asked by one of the professors at Stanford if I would contribute a chapter to a book that he was doing, William Rivers. And he was in one of the professors in the communications department where the guys and I were working on our master's degree. And he asked me if I would contribute a chapter. And he had certain parameters, and I told him, I said, well, the one thing that I honor the most is the pressure of fact. And I would be happy to contribute about the pressure of fact. And I believe that was the name of the chapter in the book that was published, I think while I was still at Stanford. Everything about that, going through from 68 when I graduated up to right now on this day in January of 2022, I have never had any other lens for anything that I have ever produced in film, in news, in anything. Just what is the pressure of fact? And that's what got me through the animal mutilations. It was a challenge, but it was fascinating in the end. Okay.
Emily R. asks a question for Linda. Is it possible to do another Wednesday with Buddy from Alien Protocols, where you have him give another place of interest to astral project to and describe?
I would be happy to do that. I really think he is a talented person, and I'll talk with him. And listen, would you guys send through the chat, and Ian could call, what do you think would be the single most, in other words, you're going to send me one suggestion, even if 100 of you send me, but send me what you think would be the single most important, and you fill in the blank, that Buddy could do remote viewing for me, and then I interview and do a report back to you guys. What is the single greatest priority right now that you would want to have talented control remote viewing about? So Ian, look for those.
I look for them, and people can also email us at earthfiles@earthfiles.com too.
Yes.
Okay, here's another question. Does Linda believe in the Galactic Federation?
I do. I think Star Trek was allowed to be ahead of where the people behind the scenes knew that in 50 or 100 years we would be. And they know that we're in a universe with 3 trillion galaxies, and each galaxy has trillions of stars. The number of solar systems in this universe is unimaginably a large number. And that I'll give you the backstory that I was told long ago in the early 80s, is that Star Trek was, just like the day the Earth stood still, a Central Intelligence Agency, CIA project. The day the Earth stood still was paid for. The money went from the CIA to what they call a cutout in Los Angeles, a place that was either working as a studio or for a writer And the whole design of the day the Earth stood still was to test public reaction to a robot, strong robot that came with a humanoid ET to do what? To tell Earth you will not be allowed to blow up, explode any atomic bombs because you don't understand the consequences. What I've been told in the real matter world is by people who are telling what they know. When we exploded the 3 atomic bombs between the test in July in New Mexico and then Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August, we tore into other dimensions that we know nothing about. And that there are, or is, a federation or federations in this gigantic, think of it, 3 trillion galaxies, each with trillions of stars and solar systems and planets. Yes, there are one or more federations, and that the federations make decisions, whether humans have any input or not. Decisions are made about planets, about life forms, and I suppose one of the aspects of what I am convinced is part of the big story is that we are a genetic manipulation on Earth by extraterrestrials, biological entities in some cases, artificial intelligence in others. We humans are just one example of millions, billions, beyond, of genetic manipulation of already evolving life forms that advanced civilizations find a reason in which to create more and more evolving life from whatever has been existing life. In a sense, we're in a universe in which the genetic manipulation of life forms is like the biggest game in town. And on our planet, this creation, a manipulation of DNA in already evolving primates to create Homo sapiens sapien, something or someone or a federation or who knows made a decision that this particular genetic experiment was going to be kept in the dark, or it was going to be deflected from all of what was actually going on behind the scenes. It would be perpetually deflected from knowing, seeing any of that truth, while out in front of the evolving species were a number of, we'll say, Disney parks that kept being created that were then guiding humans in various, very specific paths or thoughts. And in many ways, we really are a manipulated species. And my prayer is that the federation or federations that are involved in some of the overseeing of who are hostiles, who war, who are peace-loving, that it would become official policy that humans on Earth should understand the entire truth so that we would be able to grow in a universe that is as complex and full of consciousness as this one is. Clearly, there are people in Space Force. They're handling it. They're out in other solar systems. They're with other non-humans. So what would keep us in the dark? Why would we be kept in the dark? Yes, there are all kinds of innuendos about threats. The future may not be rosy, but I don't personally feel that that is a reason not to tell a planet the truth, because, coming full circle back to dreams and seeing in your mind's eye. If we all knew the truth, and we all knew that it would make a difference to concentrate on seeing the end of fire, destruction, killing, that we concentrated on shifting our reality, it might make a difference. But when you are deprived the fundamental knowledge of the truth, you are deprived the ability to even in your mind's eye see a different reality. And that's why I think it's an abuse.
Okay, Linda, Sexy Sadie is in the chat tonight, and she says, Linda, you are such an icon and mentor to so many of us. When you first started investigating alien life, who were some of your mentors and people you could trust?
The very first was Dr. Leo Sprinkle at the University of Wyoming. When I started my investigation, Director of Special Projects at the CBS station in Denver, and went to see sheriffs first, and Sheriff Tex Graves said the perpetrators are creatures from outer space, and it was a shock to me. I completely remember clearly what a shock that was to me. But the sheriffs led to, you need to talk with Dr. Leo Sprinkle at the University of Wyoming. He has people who come to him and they say they've been in a UFO, or that they have seen a UFO that has a mutilated animal. So Dr. Sprinkle and I began working together. He introduced me to a rancher who had a 300-foot diameter, huge UFO, flashing lights. His other people on the ranch saw it, and it was on like a bluff up above. The ranch was down here and the land rose up, and then on the bluff he had another pasture for some of his cattle, so the cattle would go up high and then there would be others down below. And Dr. Sprinkle had done hypnosis with him because the rancher thought that really weird things had happened to him where time seemed to be crazy, and that's how they started working together in hypnosis. The cameraman, audio man, and I go to the ranch. We pulled up in the TV station wagon. Rich Lerner was camera, Mark O'Kane was audio. And I said, let's go ahead, it's night, but let's set up, and let's set up on tripod, and let's get the ridge as a dark silhouette because there was enough light, and let's just be ready to run some footage. And as we are doing that, I think it was Rich, right over, here's the big ridge that we're interested in, but it sloped down to like a smaller one like this, like the land came and then there was a pasture. And Rich said, what is that? And we all looked to where he's pointing, and it was a absolute tomato red light. And I had done amateur astronomy from the time I was 4 years old and wanted that telescope up, and now I'm in my 30s, and so I know a lot about what should be in the sky, and here this tomato red light was large, and it seemed to slowly be moving. And the rancher said, yeah, that's one of them. We see those. And Rich and Mark, they both started to laugh. This is the example when people they either are nervous about the idea of ETs, or they really think it is crazy. My camera crew at the beginning, they laughed. But the red that seemed to be slowly moving, we're all watching it. Rich, Mark, the rancher, four humans are watching this red tomato light, and it seemed to be slowly moving, and then it went straight down. And I said, there's nothing astronomical that comes up and then turns around and goes straight down. And the rancher said again, yeah, it's one of them. I could have another mutilation. After Dr. Sprinkle would be Jacques Vallée. And if you want to reconstitute and give me another 3 minutes, I'll talk to you about Jacques Vallée. Should I do that, Ian?
Give us something on Jacques Vallée for
Okay.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to stand by with a bell.
So from Dr. Sprinkle, it was Dr. Sprinkle who said you need to talk with Jacques Vallée. He has been in, I think it was Austria or Switzerland, I don't remember which country now, but that summer of 1979. And Dr. Sprinkle organized a phone meeting. And it was, I remember it was in the fall. We had already been shooting on mutilations, and Jacques Vallée was the only other person that I know of back in that 70s period who paid any attention to mutilations at all. And we ended up in a discussion that was very intelligent, very, very helpful. And I still remember him telling me, Linda, I have seen the 8mm footage that the Billy Meyer took of the UFO and lights that were in the Billy Meyer case there, which he had gone over. And he said, from my point of view, this is not hoaxed. This is real film, and it is real film of real aerial objects. And as controversial as that case has been, it was also a demonstration that Jacques Vallée has always put money behind doing investigations. He has traveled a great deal. He went to get his own lay of the land, reality check. And he told me during that phone discussion, he said, this is a very, very difficult field. And he basically was saying, you're on the right track with the animal mutilations and the link to another intelligence. But that the intrusions in your life and your work and in every way that you will end up getting from a variety of directions that want you stopped means, and I can still hear him saying that, Linda, do yourself a favor. Do your work on your own as much as you can, because you will find that you cannot trust anyone who approaches you to take you to, here is the proof that this is what the down in South America, they had a big, huge thing that the mutilations were being done by these little mice, and it was preposterous, and everybody knew it was preposterous. And it was an entire nation's deflection from the seriousness of animal mutilations. Jacques gave me good advice, and there's many, many other people, and my dear friend Jim Mars, true collaborator. We collaborated and talked about so many things, and it was great to have a really honest person that you could really talk about difficult subjects with, and they weren't afraid of the subject, and you could really flesh things out. There's many. I'm very grateful. Whitley Strieber has always been a great sounding board on many things.
Linda, we've got so many questions that are piling up, and I'm sorry we can't get to them all.
Well,
I want to say
listen,
thank you to all of our viewers for giving us so many good questions.
Yes, oh, it's wonderful. I'm really, really having a great time. And I go to Conscious Life Expo February 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. And Serena has invited me to stay an extra day. And that means that I would get back on the Wednesday of our show. So now what I'm posing is that maybe what we could do is say, let's do another one on that February 9th when I get back from Conscious Life Expo, that we do another one like this, which is really fun. And it would be sort of back to back, but if you guys like it, Ian, that would be a way that I can do the trip and come back and be able to do it spontaneously and not do a rerun.
That's right. People could get their questions ready,
Yeah.
and we've still got a few questions here, which I'll carry forwards for you as well.
Yeah, let's go 10 more minutes. Let's take advantage of this now.
Sure.
This is fun.
Okay, Linda, going on from the mentors question, just some idea for you from another one of our viewers. They need a list of Linda's recommended must-read books to read. So perhaps you could give us that at some stage.
I will tell all of you right now, the one book that would set the frame in your mind the best for everything else, for anything else you would read here, is David Bohn's Wholeness, 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 and the Implicate Order, Implicate, the Implicate Order. I have read that book through from cover to cover twice. I started reading a chapter in it the other day because I really am into some very profound stuff. And if you boiled everything down, which you must not do, you really need the experience of reading David Bohm, Wholeness and the Implicate Order, in the context of what I am really truly convinced, that we are in a universe, when they talk about quantum and the fact that we could, and the Chinese already have, a lot of entangled photons that they've had a spacecraft take to the moon, and now they've got entangled photons in China, and now they've got a bunch on the moon, and those entangled photons do instantaneous communication. This is hard stuff for humans to wrap their head around. When you do a little reading about quantum entanglement and read Bohn's book, and then start looking at the universe we are in as not so much a cold, infinite, incomprehensible place, but that what will begin to come over you is a sense that I am connected to you. We all are connected together. Our togetherness is connected to the earth. The earth is connected in frequencies to this solar system. This solar system is resonating with the greater part of this particular arm in the Milky Way galaxy. They're all resonating with the Milky Way galaxy, and that there are 3 trillions. You can keep going and going and going. And once you begin to sort of get resonating patterns of frequencies, entangled photons in China now, and entangled photons, they had to be taken up to the moon in a spaceship. That time travel occurred. But once they are there on the moon, they are entangled with the photons on Earth, and it is instantaneous. Instantaneous. If you read there, and then you start thinking about how are advanced civilizations moving in this universe? Space tunnels, quantum frequencies, instantaneous resonances, 100 light years in a day. And nothing makes any sense at all until you start reading somebody like David Bohm. And he is the one that I've written in a couple of books about, and I've used because I have never forgotten. That when I hit this sentence in David Bohm's Wholeness in the Implicate Order, it was just like, and that was, all mass is frozen light. All mass is frozen light. The thought that dwells in the light, it is infinite. The light is infinite. Infinity goes on and on in cycles and cycles, like Roger Penrose told me in 2018. And once you start getting into this, and even though our minds have been abusively restricted in many ways, and you begin to get this feeling that even though we have to live with mortality as creatures that were kept down into these Drosophila fly lives, short lives, you just start learning enough to actually begin to think, and then you go unconscious forever, or that's the way it has been taught. But when you start getting into what I think is much closer to the large cosmology of the kind of universe that we are in, and we haven't even begun to talk about the yin and the yang, why would there be dark and white in this particular universe? It was a few months ago when we were trying to do the digital conferences, and I did one called The Key to the Universe is Frequency. This is where everything is going, and it may seem complex. That's why. Read Bohm, let him settle into you, and then I think you will find that whatever is coming, whatever we're going to be introduced to, you will be much more comfortable with whatever happens. I give you that tonight. Let's see, one more.
We can post the information about that book as a pinned comment, or put it underneath the video tonight as well. Okay, Linda, what species of alien would be the best to integrate with society on Earth?
That's a very good question. The problem is, I have heard about what it is like to work elbow to elbow with a tall white, and they're very strict, but they are supposed to be friendly to us. I have had several communications from people working in aerospace who have said that they have worked next to blonde, blue-eyed ETs in very classified projects, and that they feel a sort of, they're sort of look like us, that there is a different feel. So those two are the only two that I know about that have been identified for me as being from other star systems, but with bases on our planet and in this solar system, and that the tall whites and the tall Nordics, the blondes, blue eyes, that they do have, and this is the interesting word, they have vested interest in Earth as a planet, and we are the manipulated surface life. And the question that remains in my mind, it's one thing, I guess, to understand that there would be other intelligences with a vested interest in our planet because our planet is extraordinary. Would they have a vested interest in the evolution of Homo sapiens sapien? Maybe if they are the ones who manipulated the DNA. But what is exactly the truth? And this is where you get into the difficult landscape. When you have never been told the truth for thousands of years by a variety of presences, some that have been extraterrestrial biological entities, some that have been artificial intelligence, some that have been Homo sapiens sapien power brokers with selfish vested interests. How does the evolving average Homo sapiens sapien with short lives ever know the truth about what they have either revered as a leader or as a religious figure or whatever the category? How do you come to terms with what the truth is if there are other beings from other solar systems who have a vested interest in the Earth, but that they manipulate genetically? That was a good place to end, yeah. And I'll just add this. I don't have an answer for the question I just posed. It bothers me because knowing the truth, what is the whole truth in every level, in every direction, that's what we're denied. And until we know all of that, it is really, really hard. But I guess it is a calming, I feel a calming effect of the few people that I've talked to who have worked, they say, side by side with a tall Nordic or a tall white. It's not a normal human relationship, but they seem calmed by their working relationship, and because they describe it as being professional, then it makes me feel, well, there may be hope here that we can end up being a civilization that has been denied truth and lied to for millennia, but maybe by the time we finally get the headline, "We're not alone in the universe," because they can't go much longer and not without telling us, with various space forces all over the place, we're mining agreements. There's just so much that is going on. And that once, if that headline and the reality that we are on a disconnected planet from reality, and that we've got to work our way back to a civilization that is on the same playing field, then it may be that the tall Nordics and the tall whites could help us through that, if they are genuinely interested in at least seeing us survive along with Earth. And you know what I mean by that. There could be a lot of civilizations who want Earth. They don't really care about us, but they want Earth. Okay, so then on the big box, if the divine field that cycles and cycles and cycles through infinity, as Roger Penrose said, has a specific goal in the creation and the cycling of souls, which are quantum energy packets. And the divine field's goal is, if you started out with 1 million souls, I'm just picking a number, 1 million quantum energy packets, and you want them to go into a variety of matter, maybe non-matter, maybe just light, maybe just water, a whole variety of different mediums. But in the end, in which would be the cycles of infinity, what was wanted in all of the differences, how many of those souls would always reject the dark and always choose the light. And in the end of infinity, which is like an oxymoron, all of the souls would choose the light, and then they would be back into the divine field, and maybe everything then would just disappear. These are thought exercises. I hope that a lot of you do thought exercises too, because it helps prepare a little bit for all of the variety of things that could happen. And it also, it seems to me, binds you, me, and all of us who are struggling to understand why humans have such a tough time loving each other. It's a mystery. If we could climb that hill and get past that, we might know heaven on earth. I truly love you guys in the agape true spirit. I'm human. You're human. We're in a huge mystery. And we're in it together. And I love you. I'll see you next week.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.